Well, hey, everybody. Today is such an exciting day because it is the launch of Ryan Franklin's brand new book, The Christian Leader Blueprint. It is a book that is going to transform your life as well as your leadership. And so, Ryan, so excited to talk to you today. I know this has been the culmination of years of study and work and practice. And how are you feeling today? How are you doing on launch day?
You know what? I am feeling great today, Adam. It's exciting. I'm glad the day is finally here. And today on this show, on the Christian Leader Made Simple podcast, it's going to be a little bit different. As you can see, I'm joined here today with Adam Shaw. He's a great friend of mine, and I've asked him to come on my show to interview me today. And Adam, it's an absolute pleasure to have you here on this special day. And one thing I know about you is you know how to laugh. I love your laugh, by the way.
Thank you.
There we go.
There we go. We've already started.
You know how to have a good time, and I need you to help me today to celebrate this huge milestone in my life. It's the launch of my brand new book, The Christian Leader Blueprint. And this book is much more than just a collection of words on pages. It's a guide that promises to transform lives and empower Christian leaders from all walks of life. And I just strongly believe that it's going to have a profound impact on pastors and church leaders and Christian business leaders. And I am thrilled that all of you that are listening have joined us today to be a part of this special moment. And so, Adam, I'm going to turn the floor back over to you.
All right. Well, listen, everybody, if you're hearing this and you're like, I'm already sold, Ryan, you've already sold me. I want to buy this book. We want to let you know that if you want to hit pause on this podcast or wherever you're listening, if you're watching this on YouTube, we would totally not be offended. You can go to Amazon.com, Amazon.ca, whatever country you're in right now, and you can order this book because it is now available. And because it's launch day, Ryan has put together some incredible incentives for you that really are only available for today, just the next 24 hours because it is launch day. If you buy one copy, you're going to get free access to his self-assessment that he's put together. That is a $39 value. If you buy 3 books, so if you buy it for you and some friends, you can get access to a live VIP, how to use the Christian Leader Blueprint webinar. That is a $138 value. And if you are a senior leader, and you go, this is something I have been looking for my team. And if you buy 10 copies of this book, you as that senior leader, that point leader, are going to get all of the above, plus a 30-minute one-on-one coaching call with Ryan himself, and that is a $397 value. Ryan is a highly skilled executive coach, and those 30 minutes are just going to be packed full of great conversations that they're going to help you implement this model. So go and buy the book right now if you don't feel like waiting to the end of the podcast, to the end of the show. Well, Ryan, the reason why I'm on the show is to talk to you and introduce our audience to some of the concepts that you have put together. And I know you've spent a lot of work. This is years in the making. You're relying on not just your experience in corporate leadership and church leadership, but also on some highly specialized education that you've received. Not just talking about your master's degree that was a focus on pastoral counseling, but also your postgraduate certificates on executive coaching and executive leadership that you've poured all into this book. And so I guess my first question is kind of a big one, kind of a vision-oriented question. And Ryan, why this book? Why the Christian Leader Blueprint?
Well, thank you for asking that, Adam. And maybe I could give you a little bit of the backstory of why, and then some vision behind the Christian Leader Blueprint, what I saw in this. And, you know, I've been heavily involved in ministry for over 25 years in a variety of roles, from volunteer youth ministry, to a bivocational assistant pastor in a church plant in Washington, D.C., to full-time pastoral ministry in an intense, highly active church for the last 19 years. So I know what leading from insecurities feels like. And I know what trying to prove myself in unhealthy ways feels like. I know what having a crazy, out-of-whack work-life balance, I know what that feels like. And I've pursued positions, I've pursued titles in my past over my calling, and really had very little idea of what my true strengths and weaknesses were at the time, much less being able to zero in on those things to help me with wherever I was at, and with what God designed me to do. And you know, in the middle of all of that, because of not operating in those areas the way that I really could, I've damaged relationships even along the way because of these blind spots. And there's no doubt that all of those things have lessened my effectiveness. They have drained my enjoyment of leadership and life at times. And in 2016, Adam, I took on a new and quite overwhelming pastoral role, and I was handed a massive amount of responsibilities. I won't go into all of that today, but it wasn't long, and all of those weak areas of my life started coming to the surface in ways that I had never experienced before. And I found myself feeling those dreaded feelings of burnout, and really, I just wanted to quit and run. If I could be just blatantly honest. And I knew that something had to change. And I'm going to speed this story up a ton and skip a lot of the details here, but I found myself searching for answers. And through prayer and through godly men in my life, influencers in my life, I actually signed up and went through a year of very expensive executive coaching. And Adam, it changed my life. And I found a rhythm and work-life balance that I had never had before. I began to see myself clearly and in ways that I had never even realized that I could see myself. I was all of a sudden leveraging my strengths, and I was leading in ways that were productive and successful for the environments that I was leading in. And I developed the ability to build and resource from my relationships like I had never done before in my life. And I'm going to tell you, it made all the difference. And again, skipping a lot of the details, I ended up learning to help other people with these very same things through executive coaching. And I was helping to guide and empower Christian leaders from all walks of life to rise above the challenges that they were facing, and to learn to lead with purpose and with authenticity and with compassion. And every time I would work with a client, I was seeing a unique but similar, if I could say that in the same sentence, success story, and even a pattern. And as I started studying that pattern, I literally, Adam, you would laugh. I could show you some of the things that I did, but I literally graphed the characteristics that I was seeing and the data that I was seeing. I was actually studying the data, and eventually, this Christian Leader Blueprint model emerged from that data. And in today's fast-paced, ever-changing world, there are many Christian leaders that find themselves, they're just grappling with a sense of being stuck, and they're overwhelmed by the complexities of leadership. Pastoral leadership especially is not easy. And really, most of these leaders are unsure of how to sort of align their faith with their role as a leader. And this new book, The Christian Leader Blueprint, it aims to address this desperate need by providing a comprehensive blueprint that helps Christian leaders navigate those complexities of leadership with a strong foundation in their faith and in Scripture. You see, I deeply understand the pain and the frustration that arises when leaders feel disconnected from their values or their lack of clarity in their decision making. And through this powerful model, and I hope that you understand that's with all humility. It is a very powerful model. I offer very practical strategies and real life examples and insight that equips leaders to overcome these challenges that I also overcame and am still working in some areas. And to embrace a leadership lifestyle that is not only effective, but it's enjoyable, but also deeply rooted in Christian principles and biblical principles. And this is a step-by-step guide to leadership transformation. And I'll stop with this.
Okay, go ahead.
I'll stop with this, Adam. My greatest desire is that Christian organizations, especially churches, would see unprecedented growth and fulfillment because the leadership team chose to embrace these principles of the Christian Leader Blueprint. That is my greatest desire.
One of the things I love about this book and really all your work, Ryan, is it's battle tested. I think so many leaders, when they're at the end of the rope, or they feel that stress, they sense these gaps in their life, but they don't know how to fix them. I'm just going to be honest with you. You know me quite well. I'm pretty high conceptual. I like ideas and all that stuff. But when it comes to adopting things into the most vulnerable areas of my life, like my relationships and my emotions, it's so important to me that the ideas that I am looking at bringing in are real world. And that's what's so great about the Christian Leader Blueprint, is that you've discovered these through your own painful process and your own self-discovery. And I think, for those that are going, oh my goodness, I got tons of leadership books. Yes, but you don't have very many, I'm assuming, and I know because I know my own library, that are written by people that have lived and they are walking the talk, and this has come from the overflow of their own experience. And so that's one of the things I love about this model. And before we break the model down, you've used the words biblical and godly and Christian over and over and over again in the presentation of this new book. My follow-up question is, why Christian in the Christian leadership? Why this emphasis on the Bible, on Christian principles? Why did you choose to call it the Christian Leader Blueprint and not just the Leader Blueprint?
Well, first of all, I didn't want to mislead people because it is infused heavily with Scripture. And Scripture, Christian principles in leadership, for me, was an absolute no-brainer. As a pastor, as a kingdom-driven person, as my number one goal is to grow churches, this was born out of my own personal experiences and my observations and my biblical study. And as a pastor and a Christian leader myself, I came to realize that leadership at its core is not just about achieving goals and driving success. At its core, it's about being a more biblical steward of what God has placed in my realm of responsibility. And it's about influencing and impacting the lives of others with biblical love and compassion and just a desire to serve people. And Scripture is full of leadership principles. It is full of leadership principles, and it's unique to most conventional models because it teaches us the value of humility and empathy and selflessness, qualities that are foundational to, in my opinion, to effective and transformative leadership. And so by drawing from biblical teachings and even the life of Jesus himself, we find invaluable lessons on how to live our life and lead effectively and enjoy life while we're doing it. And ultimately, Adam, this biblical approach, it just helps foster an environment of trust and respect and authentic relationships, which is very much biblical. There's over 50 something scriptures that say that are one another's scriptures, such as bear one another's burdens. We need authentic and trustful and respectful relationships in our life. And that's what the Christian Leader Blueprint model does, is it leads to that.
And so we've been using the word model throughout this whole conversation because that's really what the book is. It's not just a collection of inspirational ideas or thoughts. As valuable as those types of resources are, what we're really pitching today, what we're presenting is a model to become healthier. And let's talk about that. Let's give people the overview of the Christian Leader Blueprint. Could you walk us through the 4 elements that make up the Christian Leader Blueprint?
Yeah, absolutely. There's, as you mentioned, there's 4 major parts to the blueprint model. The first one is establish a better rhythm of life. The second one is see yourself more clearly. The third one is leverage your strengths. And the fourth is build more productive relationships. That's the 4 overarching parts to the Christian Leader Blueprint model.
So let's kind of unpack these. And I know when I was first introduced to the concept, the very first one, the healthy rhythm of life, that just hit me. It felt it strike such a deep chord, because oftentimes, and I'm just speaking just vulnerably here, I'm spending so much as a pastor, and I'm spending so much time, and I work with teams and other leaders in churches. I've spent so much time helping others that I didn't really take care of myself, and there were other things that just they weren't disqualifying things that popped up in my life, but they were limiting things that popped up in my life because my rhythm was out of whack. It was out of balance. How can developing a healthy rhythm of life be one of the most important first steps that a Christian leader can take to really spur new growth?
Yeah. Before I answer that, let me back up just a bit and say that I put this, you'll see a model, an actual diagram of the model in the book after the first couple of chapters. And I put it in a Venn diagram because all of these things overlap so much. Like one affects the other. The other, they're almost one and the same. So it's hard to even lay them out in a diagram. But I did the Venn diagram because it overlaps so much. But the very first part that and in fact, when I start working with clients, most of the time, that is what brings them to me, is that what you're talking about, that healthy life balance or that unhealthy life balance. And that is to begin to start working on other areas of your life. You have to start with establishing a better rhythm of life. Excuse me.
Yeah.
And really, that healthy life balance encompasses 4 things. It encompasses work, rest, play, and worship. Work, rest, play, and worship. And when we find balance in that, especially that work, and because work is going to encompass the majority of our time. It's not that we have to have equal amounts of time in those 4 things, but it's understanding what those 4 things are and having having balance, in those things. And a lot of times, especially with church leaders, but even entrepreneurs or CEOs or whatever of Christian businesses, a lot of times that work-life balance is way out of whack, and people are struggling. They are living at the edge of their margin, most of the time with no margin in their life. And when we do that, it adds to the stress, it adds to the anxiety, and some of the worst parts of us come out during those times. So if we can begin to kind of figure out how we can balance those things. And just to give you an example, for play, for instance, Adam, that was foreign to me. Like, I felt guilty when I would go play. When I'd go to the hunting lease, I enjoy hunting. When I would go to the hunting lease and go hunting, I would come back feeling guilty for those things because I felt like, I could have been working during that time. I wasted 4 or 5 hours of my time, and I could have been working. But the reality of it is the Lord wants us to have those times of rest and play. And a lot of times people are just work and worship, especially Christian leaders, work and worship.
Yeah.
But we have to have rest. We have to have margin in our life, and we have to have play as well. So that's a big part of establishing a better rhythm of life.
And I know for Christian leaders, if you don't have that margin, worship becomes part of your work, and you don't actually have
That's
that
true.
worship component at all. And it's easy to justify it too, because I mean, even in the let's look at the church world. Let's look at the business section, and then I'll go to the next part of the rhythm of life. This is sparked in my mind. It's like, in church work, you're a pastor. You're shepherding people. You're trying to lead them from sin to grace, and from just the gutters at times of life. Sometimes people come to you. They come to church not when their life is winning. They come when their life is falling apart. And so you're in crisis management and then trying to move them into maturity. What more important kind of vocation in life than to kind of lead people to eternity? And when that's kind of in your head, it's hard to give yourself a break. And you may be saying, I'm an entrepreneur, or I'm an executive leader. I'm not a church guy. Well, I can understand the pressure too. You've got employees, you've got this product or this company that you're trying to bring up off the ground that's going to open doors financially for your family. Or you've got people's mortgages and livelihoods and families that are depending on you as a CEO or a VP in an organization. And there's so much pressure. If I don't deliver this, then all of these other people are going to get hurt. But if you don't have margin in your life, you will not function at your best.
So true. And a lot of times, Adam, it's wrapped up in our identities. For me, for instance, when my grandfather passed away, I was grieving his loss. And I realized, I never realized this before, but I realized that all of my life, he told me, Ryan, if you don't work hard, you're never going to amount to anything. And so I had that in the back of my head. And anytime I would play rather than work, or I would rest rather than work, then those words would ring out really heavily in my mind, and I would feel guilty for it. And that's not what my grandfather meant. He didn't mean that I couldn't go play but that was what was ingrained in my head. And a lot of times that's deeply rooted in our identities. And so learning those things in our life and doing some practical things, which you'll find in the book, to figure out what is holding us back from having balance in those four things: work, rest, play, and worship, will help you begin to take some steps to establish a better rhythm of life. And
go ahead. Sorry.
No, go ahead. I was going to move on to the next one.
Well, that's where we were of one mind and one accord on that one, because I was thinking about the next component of. I really wanted to ask you about this because here I am. We're on a book launch, but I'm like, well, I'm going to utilize this conversation with Ryan to talk about, get some help. See yourself more clearly. You know, sometimes we have this idea that we really know ourselves well as leaders, but I walked out of a meeting and I thought that I was handling business. And my wife, who also is in leadership at our church, happened to be in that meeting too. And she was like, I don't think you have any clue how you came across in that meeting. I thought I was just asserting what we had said needed to be done. And she was like, no, buddy. You came across as a jerk. And I was like, ooh, apparently my self-awareness muscle was not being activated in this particular meeting. Let's talk about the second component. You could have written a whole book on just rhythm of life, and it would have worked so well for so many, but you've added this second component, seeing yourself more clearly. Can you talk about, again, how does this help an individual, but even in the context of a team, what can this do in a team if people start walking into rooms and meetings with greater self-awareness?
Well, and let me just point out, Adam, there's a wealth of things even beyond what we're just scratching the surface to. We talked about work-life balance, healthy life balance, but there's also in that establish a better rhythm of life. There's vision, and there's routine and goals, and there's character growth, not just moral growth, but character growth in our life. And I'm not going to go into details on that today, but I just want to encourage you. We're not going to be able to even scratch the surface of these topics. So please go back, get the book, and go back and read some of these things. But seeing yourself more clearly, Adam, if we walk into a room with one component of see yourself more clearly is with elevated emotional intelligence, it changes the game. Yeah. We're able to understand ourselves, understand the emotions within us, understand how we're presenting those emotions to the people around us. We can clue into their emotions and regulate ourselves based on their emotions as well. It changes the game. And I'm going to tell you something, Adam. The business world has caught on to the effectiveness of emotional intelligence. And they are spending millions and billions of dollars right now trying to increase the emotional intelligence of their C-suite leaders, of other leaders in their businesses, because they understand the value of emotional intelligence, of seeing yourself more clearly. And also within that, there's clarity of mind. We hear a lot about clarity of mind right now. It's there's so many things in this world that seem to clutter our minds, and that's a huge component of see yourself more clearly. Your motivation.
Absolutely.
Here's a big one, Adam, that I wish we had time to dive into. We could do multiple podcasts on this.
We could. But it's almost like people need to go buy the book. It's almost like people need to go buy the book, and then they can have the idea unpacked for them.
Exactly. But that fourth component of see yourself more clearly, leadership derailers, is huge. This is blind spots that every one of us, Adam, every one of us have blind spots, and people around us wish they could tell us. They see them. We don't, and they wish they could tell us, but they don't. They don't tell us. And that's a very difficult dynamic. It a lot of times it's rooted around our insecurities. It's rooted around things that we guard ourselves from in life through hurts and pains. And the book really dives into that to help us. That's the fourth and the final component of see yourself more clearly.
Now, this third element, and again, this is why the book is, as I said at the top of the show, is so jam-packed, full of great things. You see, we're working on a better rhythm of life. We're working on our emotional intelligence. We're understanding our leadership derailers. We're seeing ourselves more clearly. But that's not all. Now, the third component of this model, Ryan. So we've already covered so much already as far as the concept of the Christian Leader Blueprint goes. But there's this new component that you've added. So we're working on a healthy rhythm of life. We're working on seeing ourselves more clearly. And then upon that clearer vision, we find this third component of the blueprint, and that is leveraging your strengths. Could you talk a little bit more about why this is so important for a leader to grab a hold of if they're really going to see their goals accomplished, their vision accomplished, and they're going to become more effective?
Yeah. If we're going to be truly effective, we have to understand our calling and what we've been called to do. That's a difficult thing that people wrestle with quite a bit. And so hopefully in the book, this will help you begin to take some steps to figure out what your calling is, if you're not clear on that already, or if you just want to make sure that you're clear on that. But then another piece of that is giftings. And this encompasses your strengths, your weaknesses as a person. We all have different strengths. God equipped Adam with a little bit different strength than he equipped me with. And that's one of the reasons I asked you to come on and help me celebrate, because that's not
glad
a
to be here,
man. But where your calling and your giftings collide, there's a sweet spot there. And I want to find that sweet spot. I don't want to chase something out of an insecurity in my life. I don't want to chase something because society or cultural whatever pushes you down that road. I want to chase it because it is within my wirings, within my giftings that the Lord has given me, and my calling. And once we find that, there is a great sweet spot there that will help us enjoy and thrive in what we're doing. And you know what? It will leave room for other people's giftings as well. If we recognize that we're not strong in certain areas, guess what? There's others that will be strong and can complement our ministries or our jobs or wherever we may find ourselves leading. Another component of that is leading others. I put this in there because there's some key things that are super important. This is a lot of what your typical leadership books are on, such as conflict resolution and effective communication and things of that nature. These are just vital, important parts. I couldn't leave those out, and that's part of leveraging your strengths. And then developing others. It's so important that we figure out how to develop that next generation of leaders, and so that's a vital part of leveraging your strengths as well.
And this is so liberating. I think it's going to be so liberating for so many people, because a lot of leaders that I'm connected to, and even just to be vulnerable with my own awareness of my own weaknesses, there can at times be this drive to fix what's wrong with me, to fix what I'm not good at. And we should fix our leadership derailers, the things that can make us, kind of fall off the tracks and can short circuit what is good in us. But often the greatest value that we're going to add to any organization that we're a part of is not when I fix what I think is wrong, or the skills that I feel like I don't have, but when I identify what are my God-given gifts, and then I just lean all the way into them, and then I do that with people on my team. If there are very, I've got people on my team that are super creative. Well, if I give them a spreadsheet, they're going to fall to pieces. And so rather than putting so much pressure on them to perform in places where they don't fit, I can take these concepts and I can pull my team together and I can help them identify what their strengths are. And together we can complement one another
exactly
and accomplish our goal. Go ahead.
And I was just going to say, they feel fulfilled and you feel fulfilled, and they have margin in their life because they're not trying to do everything. And you have margin in your life because you're not trying to do everything. We need other people. You don't have team with just one person. You have a team when you have multiple people using their gifts, leveraging their strengths at the same time, and it's super, super important.
The last component of the blueprint, I think is something that's so vital and important in the life of a leader. We've been working on a rhythm of life. We're seeing ourselves more clearly. We're identifying and leveraging our strengths and the strengths of others that are on our team. But this last component, I feel, has the ability to really provide the fuel to all of the things that a leader does. And that is relationships, building more productive relationships. Can you unpack that a little bit for us?
Well, let me just say this. It's hard to build productive relationships in your life if your rhythm of life is out of whack, if you don't know yourself well, if you can't understand your emotional impact on the surroundings around you, if you're allowing those leadership derailers to be out of control, if you're not leveraging your strengths and you're taking on tasks that you're not built for, all of those things collide into a place where you're actually gonna erode relationships if you're not doing those other three things. But when you do engage in those other three things, and that doesn't mean that you're perfect in any one of these things. I am far from perfect in any one of these things. But we're going for progress
over perfection.
Exactly. And the more progress I make in the other three areas, the more productive relationships that I'm going to produce. And what ends up happening is I find myself with greater social intelligence, which is a subtopic of emotional intelligence. I do realize that. However, it can stand alone, and it is important to stand alone. But I learned how to self-regulate myself. I'm not going off in anger towards someone at this point, because I see myself. I see the things that trigger me. I understand the dynamics around that, so I'm able to self-regulate a lot better. I learn how to use empathy for relational connection, relational bonding in a way that is super important and that can't come any other way. And then finally, Adam, I have learned in my personal life, and it's so important for any leader that I work with, is that they build a personal support team, and they have people around them that understand them, that they can be transparent and vulnerable with, that they can resource from when they are in a place that they need help, that they need a vital relational nutrient of some sort, maybe acceptance or validation or encouragement or maybe even advice at times. If they don't have a personal support team to provide those things, guess what? They will find themselves spiraling for sometimes days. I know I would find myself spiraling for days at times. Now it's more like at most a couple of hours, because I know how to resource from people around me and get the things that I need and get back to a healthy place in life and a healthy place in leadership in a very quick and authentic way.
Well, Ryan, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to all of us today and about your new book and explaining the blueprint. I know this is going to help so many people. I know it's the culmination of years and years and years of hard work and things you've learned along the way to develop a true model for Christian leaders. And I think it's going to add so much value to the pastors and leaders that are here. And so if you're listening today and any one of these 4 points, rhythm of life, seeing yourself more clearly, leveraging your strengths, building more productive relationships, if that has struck a chord with you and you're like, this is something I need to develop, if I'm going to go to the next level in my life, if I'm going to take my team to the next place of growth, if we're going to see our church grow or our company expand, we've got to have more of this in my life. Well, what's stopping you? Go and buy the book. Go to Amazon.com, Amazon.ca, or whatever country you're listening to right now. You are going to be able to purchase this book. And because it's launch day, just as a reminder, there are some amazing free incentives that normally Ryan bundles as part of his executive coaching that are going to be made available to you for free because you've purchased the book. So if you buy one copy, you're going to get that free self-assessment. That's a $39 value. If you buy 3, so one for you, one for a couple of friends, you're going to be able to be a part of that live VIP webinar on how to use the Christian Leader Blueprint. And if you are a senior leader and you're saying, hey, I'm buying this for the whole leadership team, well, that's incredible because you're going to get all the things that I already mentioned, plus a 30-minute coaching call. If you're listening to this episode and you're like, hey, Adam, I would have loved to take a few moments and switch places with you and have a conversation with Ryan, because there's some things that I have on my heart that tie into this system that I need to unpack with someone. Well, you can do that. You can have that 30-minute one-on-one coaching call when you buy this book for your team. Ryan, thank you so much. Congratulations, my friend, on this incredible book. And everybody else, bring this book into your library. You will be, because it's a Christian book, we're going to add this word, you will be blessed as a result of bringing these biblical concepts into your life and leadership. Before we go, Ryan, any last parting words?
I just want to say that when you purchase this book, it's not just a one and done type book. You don't just read it and then leave it alone. These are concepts that can become your growth blueprint for the remainder of your life. It's a template that we can resource from and continue to grow in many years for many years to come. And if you're wondering how to develop yourself or how to develop your leadership team, then I'm telling you, look no further than the Christian Leader Blueprint model that's found in this book. Thank you, Adam,
All right,
so
everybody.
much.
All right. Thank you so much, Ryan. And to everybody else, thank you for listening. If you want to know more about Ryan, you can go to ryanfranklin.org. You get access to the other resources that he makes available to all of you. Take care, everybody. God bless, and go get you a good book.